The Art of Emptying the Mind, Krishnamurti on Consciousness and Liberation. This is all based off my notes from the book The Awakening of Intelligence. So let's get started. Why empty the mind? All right. First of all, true salvation comes from emptying the mind. That's why people say money doesn't buy happiness. To me, I don't really believe happiness exists. We look back at fond moments and say we were happy then. But this objective happiness, personally, I don't believe it exists. But we can have amazing, great feelings, great holistic feelings in spite of that happiness. So, who is this for? Anyone suffering from inner conflict, constant thought, noise, or seeking true mental freedom. And what is a core problem that most humans face? We carry a lifetime of psychological content, fears, memories, judgments, and all of that shapes our suffering and our reactions. And why should we care in the first place? Because until we free ourselves from this content, we live in misery, bondage, and illusion. We are never truly free, and money cannot buy internal freedom, alright? Because it's self inflicted. Who is speaking and why listen? Well, me, I'm all sublime, but the true author where I got this information from is from J. Krishnamurti. He is an Indian philosopher and spiritual teacher who has rejected all authority, including his own, and invited people to investigate directly. What does that mean? One of the core philosophies of Krishnamurti is the only purpose of a guru is to just point you in the direction, and that direction is in here, and I will do the same. Listen to what I say, but ultimately, what I say is worthless because the true worth, the true stuff that we are searching for can only be acquired by just looking inwards, taking the time out of the day to look inwards. He doesn't offer belief, technique, or dogma. He only asks you to see clearly for yourself and asks you for the same. So let's get started. What is the content of consciousness? So this is a quote. The content of my consciousness is my unhappiness, my misery, my struggles, my sorrow, the pleasures, the fears, the agonies, the hatreds. That is my consciousness. So what does that even mean? Consciousness is not separate from its content. You're not observing sorrow, you are sorrow. Freedom begins by recognizing this truth. All right? A lot of people would say, "Oh, there's happiness within me," or I'm presently this way, but I would like to be that way." That causes suffering. All right. And also, I might be messing this up, but basically, we are not separate from that which we observe. All right. Because sometimes we might be self-hating. We might have certain thoughts or emotions, and we deny those emotions, and that creates distortion. So why must consciousness be emptied? If it's not possible, I must live a life of misery. I am in a prison. The problem is, if we do not empty consciousness, we are condemned to recycle past pain under new circumstances. All right? Without emptying, even meditation becomes escapism, and no system will be able to save us. True liberation only comes through complete emptying of consciousness. So how does one even empty up the mind? Because it must. So how to empty the mind? It must empty itself without effort. The moment there is effort, there is an observer who is making effort to change the content, which is part of consciousness. So, how not? Not through effort, not through discipline, not by any method or practice that a guru might tell you to do. None of that shit, alright? So how do we actually do it? You do it by seeing, not doing. You do it by watching without interfering. You do it by not forming new images. A good pointer is just accept it. You know what I mean? First step before any of this even happens is to accept what is. What does that mean? Accept our own ugliness. Accept the parts of us that we say shouldn't exist, because the truth of the matter is to deny the ugliness of this reality and the brutality of this world externally is to do the same internally. Because, hear me out, to say certain things that which in fact exist should not exist is to be, let's use the word audacious, is to say we are above the creator. It's to say we are above God. To deny what is to basically say, hey, my perspective on reality, my preference, my opinion on reality is above God's or the higher power, the higher self source, all right? Because the thing is, it exists. What exists exists. It is here. It's observable. It's the same reason why we read these fantasy novels. Hell, there's a reason why dragons don't exist. It's doesn't exist. It's not in reality. Famine, pain, illness, all this exists. As for what purpose, that's for us to discover. But it in fact exists. It's intentional. It's pure for a reason, and so we should do the same. Understand, yes, there's all these things happening within us. Accept the beauty and also the ugly within. So the role of images, okay? If you form an image, then you are related to it. If you don't form an image, then the past has no place. All right. What does this mean? First of all, what are even our images? They are psychological impressions from past experiences. When someone flatters or hurts you, you store that as memory. And how does that bind us? Images create relationships to the past that prevent freedom in the present. So, how is this information even useful? Freedom is when the mind doesn't form an image about ourselves or others. Remember that. Freedom is when the mind doesn't form an image about ourselves or others. Why do you think comparison is a thief of joy? Because we start conceptualizing our life, our situation with others. To do A and B, to do comparison, you must first conceptualize and form an image. Loving the unknown. Whether the emptying of consciousness with its content is love, to move between the known and the unknown is intelligence, isn't it? That is the quote. So what even is love? It is not pleasure, it is not desire, it is not comfort. It is the space where content is absent, right? When you are just purely in the moment, where you are in that flow state, okay? The void created when consciousness is free of content. That void is key. So, truth, love, and real intelligence that can only emerge in emptiness. Only in emptiness can the unknown, truth, love, real, and intelligence emerge. And ultimately, why do we run away from this void? Because it's plain and simple, it's not stimulating. It's not dopaminergic, okay? Same thing with boredom, it's like the mind is so great, it's capable of creating its own pleasure. There is pleasure associated with thoughts, all right? There's a pleasure associated with the mind, and it's an addiction, you know what I mean? It's an addiction. The same way we create beautiful and negative feelings with just our thoughts alone, we get addicted to that. We get addicted to the high of having a brain, all right? So what is real meditation, all right? It's simply to see whether the mind can empty itself and still be full with function and efficiency. So how do we go about it? We start by observing thought without identification, not trying to silence the mind, but watching it without interference. True meditation is not freedom. True meditation is freedom, not control. Remember that. Oh, why can't I act right? Or why can't I do this? Or you're trying to force yourself to do something that you are not yet. That is control. There is a force. Because remember, power, the best way I could think about power is that power is overbearing. There is no fight. When there is true power, it's like an ant being squashed underneath your finger or toes or feet. There is no fight, there is no tug. It's pure, it's overwhelming. Power is the same way control is force. There is a tug. All right. The mind empty itself while remaining functional and grounding. So the thing we have to understand is power is cultivated. Power is increased. There's a reason why there is this thing called momentum, right? The thing is that the mind wants things now. The mind wants change now. But if you do want true change, this is the unfortunate truth. If you, let's say you are a slob, you ain't shit, you have to sit there with that and watch yourself being not shit. If you, let's say, want to quit, let's say eating, you don't want to eat no more Twinkies and cake and stuff, you have to just observe yourself eating and just doing these self-destructive things and feel the pain of being present with yourself while doing these things, and then be present with the shame and pain of taking that action, and just be present. You know what I mean? Because the thing is, you can force yourself to do, and the thing is, sometimes you're successful today but you're not successful tomorrow. Sometimes we can really force ourselves and really get it going. That's cool and all, but that's very abrasive. And do you really want to be do you want to be the person, let's say there's a river and the current, and they're swimming against the current but they're still successful? Or do you want to be the person that swims with the current and is still successful? Because the thing is, yes, you can still be successful in spite of all these baggage and weights. But do you really want to be that guy or that girl in this lifetime? Do you want to be the person that's successful swimming against the current, carrying 50 pounds on them? Fuck out of here. Not me. This is why I'm doing this, all right? Not me. I'd rather, work aligned, work with the flow, So, anyways. So, final challenge to the viewer. Ask yourself, can your mind be empty and still remain sane and functional? Because emptying and love must be in harmony. It's just a simple question. Can the mind with all its content be empty and yet remain sane, not just float around? Takeaway summary. Who suffers? Everyone who carries psychological content unconsciously. What is freedom? Emptying the mind of its entire content. When? Now, not gradually. Where? In daily life, in relationship, or in attention. Why? Because nothing else ends suffering, only emptying the mind. And remember, if you are unable to empty your mind and certain thoughts still cling and hold on, it's because we are attached. All right? You could also think of emptying the mind as a severing process as well. It's a letting go process. And it's painful. But surrender to it. Just say, fuck it. Fuck it. Let me be crucified. Let me be burned alive. Okay? It's okay. Just let yourself be burned alive. That's one thing that helped me. It is torture. It is painful. But fuck it. It's worth it. You could either go through the pain of suffering till you die, or go through the pain of liberation. But either way, I'm sorry to tell you, you cannot escape pain. It is intrinsic. You could either consciously choose the pain you would want to bear, or let life give you pain. That's just how it is. I think the book is How to Not Give a Fuck. He says, life isn't about avoiding shit. It's about choosing what shit you want to deal with. All right. If you don't choose your burden, the burden will be placed upon you. Life will choose your burden. All right. And so, how do you do all of this? Direct observation without effort or image. And that is all for today. I hope everyone has a wonderful day. Catch y'all later.